Mr. Mayor, you're absolutely wrong about President Trump. President Trump is one of the greatest presidents of the United States. In fact, on a par with President Reagan. And it was absolutely right for the Queen...
Assemblymember Curtin, you can stop, and then when people are quiet, you can continue.
Thank you.
And we'll keep doing this until we show Assemblymember the respect that he's due.
Thank you, Chair. It was absolutely right that the Queen and the Prime Minister invited President Trump as the President of the United States and one of the greatest presidents to come to this country. And the majority of Londoners and the majority of people in this country were proud to welcome him. But the only fly in the ointment in his wonderful visit was when you, Mr. Mayor, decided, for no reason whatsoever, just to put an article in the Observer the day before he came, and it was very, very rude to the President of the United States, and it was wrong to do that. It isn't the place when the Queen and the Prime Minister have decided to roll out the red carpet. It is wrong of a lesser official to go against them. But I do need to ask you about some of the things that you wrote in your article. And one of the things you said was you accused the President of interfering shamelessly in the Conservative Party leadership race by backing Boris Johnson. That's not entirely accurate. He called Boris Johnson his friend. He called Nigel Farage his friend as well, another great man. But you yourself, Mr. Mayor, in 2016 interfered in the American presidential election when you backed the loser, Hillary Clinton, brazenly and openly. Isn't it hypocritical, in a sense, for you to accuse the President of doing something that you've done yourself?
Well, Chair, I will show the Assembly member, my critic, more respect than Donald Trump shows his critics. And I've heard you out. I think you're wrong. I think, look, we've got a rich history of being a country that's a beacon for human rights, for civil liberties, for women's rights, for standing up to white nationalists. And one of the things about Donald Trump is he's the president of our closest ally. Now, I think a special relationship is akin to having someone who's your best friend. And that means, of course, you stand with them at times of adversity. But when you think they're wrong, you've got to be candid and say, listen, I think you're wrong. And I just remind you of this. Your hero defended white supremacists at Charlottesville. He gave equivalents to white supremacists, anti-Semites, to anti-racist campaigners, and one of whom lost their lives. He's a poster boy for racists. He amplifies tweets of racists. I want nothing to do with him.
Well, Mr. Mayor, you're spinning false narratives there, but you're saying that you are now a friend of the United States. I wonder, with friends like you, there's not much need for enemies. But, you know, what you have said is that we shouldn't be rolling out the red carpet for President Trump. But you yourself rolled out the red carpet for a number of ambassadors of countries which have got terrible records on human rights in an event upstairs here. You rolled out the red carpet for the ambassadors of Iran, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sudan, Yemen, countries which all have travel bans on Israeli citizens, and Iran itself is terrible with human rights. In fact, if you're a woman in Iran and you decide not to wear a hijab, you can get put in prison. But you've never said anything about that. It's far worse than anything that you may accuse President Trump of falsely. And what have you got to say about the Iranian regime's throwing women in prison if they decide not to wear a hijab?
Well, Chair, just to clarify, I've not had invited anybody to London for a state visit, let alone to City Hall. And so that's just factually incorrect. I've not got the power to do so, and so the objection I have to Donald Trump is the state visit. No objection at all to having a close working relationship with Donald Trump. In fact, in my answer, I made it quite clear.
You've avoided answering the question directly, but you did actually say similar things when he came for a working visit last year. So it doesn't seem that your answer is particularly correct historically. But